Hello, students. We will be doing the critical summary of the story A Cup of Tea. Cup of Tea is written by Katherine Mansfield and it's a very popular short story. Katherine Mansfield is actually the pen name of New Zealandian modern short story writer. Uh, Kathleen Mansfield Beauchamp was her actual name, and she writes in a flowing and easy style, which is very racy. She introduces a lot of dramatic quality in her technique. The chief quality of her short stories is their psychological realism. She tries to probe deep into the psyche of her characters, and the stories of Mansfield have an abrupt end. They take the reader by surprise. A Cup of Tea deals with an upper class woman, Rosemary Fell, who is a bundle of social snobbery. She pretends to be broad minded, learned, modern, and good mannered, but Mansfield shows that whatever the status, a woman of Rosemary Fell's type is a woman after all, weak, frail, jealous, in spite of her desire to appear otherwise. Rosemary Fell is a lady belonging to a rich family. Her husband Philip adores her, the writer writes. She has a son. Uh, the writer uses a very beautiful phrase for the child, the duck of a boy. She is not beautiful, but she is charming if one notices her particular parts or organs. She is young, brilliant, ultra modern, beautifully well dressed, amazingly well read in the newest of the books. She is acquainted with all sorts of men, im- important, ordinary, charming, whimsical, and amusing, and she is fond of throwing parties for them. She is a bundle of snowberries. She buys costly things from costly markets. She often visits a little antique shop in Curzon Street. One day, it so happens that she's in the shop and she happens to appreciate a fascinating little box. But she does not buy it because the shopkeeper demands an unreasonable, very high, very exorbitant price, 28 guineas. She comes out of the shop. She is disheartened and she does not like that she was not able to buy it. But she feels pained and disheartened, and after coming out of the shop for her missed decision to buy the antique piece, even though it was for sale on a high, unreasonable price. Her twinge is sharply echoed in the outward symbols. It was drizzling outside. The lights in the rainy day seemed to be dimly lit, uh, as if regretting something. And this regret, the writer tries to say that it is the regret of not being able to buy the little box. In this way, we can say the writer has a sure knack to touch the psychological depth of her characters. She waits for the drizzle to stop. Meanwhile, a poor girl named Mrs. Smith requests her to let her have the price of a cup of tea. She wonders if one does not have even the price of a cup of tea. As she is highly imaginative, she thinks of making an adventure. So, in order to overcome her feelings of missing something and compensate her full unfulfilled desire to buy the antique piece, she finds an opportunity here to be kind and magnanimous to the begging lady. She decides to take the girl home, to be extremely nice to her, to feel her, to prove that fairy godmothers do exist. The girl has certain doubts in this unexpected generous offer, but she is convinced by Rosemary after all. She gets ready to go with Rosemary to her house, The poor girl is surprised to notice the cozy conditions of her household and bedroom. Actually, Rosemary takes her to her bedroom. Rosemary makes her sit in a big chair near the fireplace. She puts her wet clothes off. She throws her hat and coat on the floor. She feeds her with sandwiches, bread and butter, and every time her cup was empty, she filled it with tea, cream, and sugar. Rosemary feels overjoyed to see the girl eat hungrily. Soon the girl becomes refreshed. She becomes, I quote the lines from the story, a new being, a light, frail creature with tangled hair, dark lips, bright eyes, lying back in the big chair in a kind of sweet languor. Meanwhile, her husband, Philip, happens to come into the bedroom and he is surprised to see the frail girl. He takes Rosemary into his library and asks the matter. Rosemary excitedly tells him that she, that is to say, the girl, beggar girl, Mrs. Smith, is a real pickup and that she has decided to look after the poor girl, to be frightfully nice to her, as one is always reading about these things, to do away with the foolish adventure of his wife. The practical husband, Philip, strikes on her feminine jealousy. He admires the extraordinary beauty of the beggar girl and shows a mischievous interest in her. His words are astonishingly pretty, absolutely lovely, and I was bowled over her. And these words haunt Rosemary. She becomes annoyed. Her humanitarian views evaporate. She gives the girl £3 and sees her off. Then she does her makeup, goes to her husband, and asks him in a sweet and husky tone, do you like me? When she is reassured by her husband, she puts her most frail, feminine question, am I pretty? Because this is the word that the husband used for the beggar girl. The story ends on her this question, and it is made quite clear that a wife wants a full possession, full attention of her husband, and does not like him to praise any other woman. In this manner, Mansfield is a successful. She is successful in showing that a woman is, after all, frail and jealous. That is the summary of the story. Thank you very much.